Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service Success Series. To kick off the series, we are hosting a live webinar on how artificial intelligence and chatbots are transforming customer service. This webinar will uncover how chatbots and artificial intelligence are used within an organization's customer service and customer experience initiatives. After this webinar, you will also have access to on-demand case studies from other Stevie Awards winners. My name is Thanasis Apostolou. I will be the moderator of our panel of experts. I am the founder of AIP Consulting that offers customer experience management services, and AIP won a Silver Stevie Award in the Business Development Achievement of the Year category at the Sales and Customer Service Awards in 2021. Today, we are going to hear cases from exceptional speakers that have developed very interesting solutions that helped their companies with their mission delivery during the pandemic and assisted their customers in multiple ways. Let me first introduce you to our panel before we move on to hear more about their exciting cases. So also let me remind you that you can write your own questions on our YouTube live chat. So we have with us Vasanthi Gopal, who is a senior technical staff member in IBM Business Transformation, Kayla Johnson, who is the digital technical product manager lead at USAA, Sarah Ricketts, who is the director of system and business solutions at MailChimp, Kailash Ramalingam, who is the managing director and regional head at the customer center and servicing platforms at the DBS Bank, and Dan Hermes, who is a product manager at the American Red Cross Innovation Team. So let's start with Vasanthi. So Vasanthi, if you wanted to tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at IBM before we move on. Yeah.
Thanks, Thanasis. I'm Vasanthi Gopal, and I'm a senior technical staff member in IBM as part of the code-to-cash transformation in finance and operations organization. My responsibilities include designing and implementing seamless AI in code-to-cash area. I've been with the IBM for the last 23 years. We recently won the Gold Awards for 2 of our initiatives.
Nice. So, Vasanthi, what are some of the lessons that you learned and best practices regarding the chatbots that you developed within your company?
Sure. There are a number of lessons that we learned as part of the implementation of AI virtual assistant. I'll talk about few. So the AI capabilities provided by the virtual assistant needs to be seamless. What I mean by that is it needs to be in the platform where the end users are working. And we should also make sure that it is also made available through other mediums such as Slack or mobile or web if they wanted to connect from anywhere. Always partner with the client, right? The business needs to be engaged throughout the process, and conversation should be designed around a user outcome and what is the problem they are trying to solve using their chatbot. End users also needs to define the dialogue flow that they want. Otherwise the chatbot will not find the right answer. We also needed to provide a tool for subject matter experts to create the knowledge. So they need to find out like what are the typical type of questions that are going to be asked and make sure that those are the ones that are implemented within the chatbot. The answers should be precise and short, and keep the scope well defined, right? And make the limitations of the tool clear and always be transparent that users are talking to a computer. And context is also important because as the users are asking questions, they want the bot to remember the context with which they are asking, even if they had gone back and forth. We need to make sure that context is important. In our case, the Watson Conversation Service, which we use, has the mechanism to add things to the context, and we are able to retrieve it. Make feedback also as part of the conversation. Always test, monitor, and tune. User test as much as possible before launch and monitor the interaction by the user and provide a dashboard so that the business can view the type of questions that are being asked and closely monitor the dashboard post-launch and tune conversation tree as needed. So those are some of the takeaways for us from our implementation.
Interesting, thank you. Now, do you foresee that your virtual assistant will work with RPA to help expand artificial intelligence in the enterprise?
Sure. Yeah. So I think virtual assistants are not anymore just for information these days, right? There are like you want the information, either a static information or pulling the data from the database is something that the bots are already doing it. But where the end users are going these days is that they want to make sure that bot is also combined with automation. So that's where the RPA comes into play. So you want to make sure that the bot is able to connect to different APIs, different bots, to make to almost become like a digital twin for the end user. So we are in the process of implementing this. There is a new product that has been launched, Watson Orchestrate, which can sequence the jobs. And this is something that we are planning to implement by beginning of next year.
Okay, thank you, Vasanti. So let's meet now Kayla. Kayla, do you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Kayla Johnson. I am with USAA, and we have over 13 million members with USAA that we service. Our virtual agent started in 2012, and so we have continually expanded on it and grown our virtual agent. We recently won the Stevie Award for Sales and Customer Service.
Okay, now with the global pandemic and the Atlantic hurricane season with 25 storms, including 9 hurricanes, how did USAA Virtual Assistant ensure they were there for their members when and where they needed them?
So to start with the global pandemic, we started getting a lot of questions about stimulus checks. We got questions about what we were doing for the global pandemic. And when we realized with our NLU that we were getting more and more questions about the global pandemic, we created content within a day or two and got it launched out to our membership to give them more information about how the stimulus checks were going to be received, payment plans if they needed any, what USAA was doing for the global pandemic. Our company created a web page that our virtual agent was able to navigate to for members to get more information. And then with our hyperactive Atlantic hurricane season last year, and we have catastrophe season all the time. That's part of our business, right? We're an insurance and banking and financial business. We closely monitor what the names of the hurricanes are going to be for the year and preload those into our NLU so that when members do start asking about the storms, name storms, we're able to answer questions. So we have turned around content for our membership within 24 hours to get information about how they can file claims, what type of help they can get during the global, the catastrophe seasons.
Okay, cool. So USAA has an all-time high digital containment of 75%. How does the company's virtual assistant continue to improve the containment for its members? And what are the other KPIs that you use to measure success?
Yeah, so we absolutely continually monitor and grow our content. So we look for, with the NLU, we have our virtual agent optimization team that will look through the NLU, make sure that we're answering the questions that we're getting and create new content. And then on the other side of it, where I specialize is I work on the experience with the actual lines of business or our banking, insurance, and life company. And we continually change and modify how we deliver the content to the member. We personalize the content with data that we have about the member to get them the information without them needing to call. If needed, and they still do want to speak with one of our member service representatives, we get them into our contact centers quickly and into the correct contact center already verified. So with that, we are continually adding new content, optimizing content, adding in more personalization for the members.
Okay, so USAA is among the leading providers of insurance, banking, and investment and retirement solutions to almost 30 million members of the US military, veterans, and their families. The virtual assistant supports all these product lines. What are some exciting ways that your company is innovating on the chatbot to drive greater digital adoption and company growth?
I think some exciting ways that we are working to drive greater digital adoption and company growth is looking at how we can make an asynchronous omni-channel experience by working to connect all of our different ways members can get information or talk to USAA. We also are changing the way are looking at changing the ways that members can speak with representatives by getting them quicker into the contact centers. We are also looking at changing how we have our search feature and how it can integrate with our virtual agent to get answers quicker. And we're also looking at our containment measures. We're looking at our contact mitigation measures to help drive some of these solutions that we're looking to innovate on.
Okay, very exciting, Kayla. Thanks. Let's move on to Sarah Ricketts. So, Sarah, tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. So Sarah Ricketts, yeah, absolutely. I'm currently the Director of System and Business Solutions with MailChimp. I'm part of our customer team. So all teams that are outward facing, supporting our customers. My team is very specifically focused on any third-party tools or any tools utilized to service our customers, which is really important. With our Stevie Award and being that COVID really changed the landscape for many business owners, especially small business owners, we received the award for empowering our customers during uncertainty. So it's really important that our focus during that time was to elevate and figure out how we can service our customers in a faster mode.
Yeah. And so, yeah, what channels do your customers primarily use, and how does MailChimp use their chatbot to service them?
Yeah, absolutely. So today, MailChimp does have a variety of channels that our customers can interact with us on. We utilize email, live chat. We do a small population of outbound calls for our premium customers. And then one mechanism that was implemented was utilizing an AI bot, utilizing Ada specifically. What we found during those times is we had to shift gears quickly to be able to understand how we could service our customers in a rapid mode, but not impact the service that we were providing. So what we found is during that time, live chat became the popular mode because it was the easiest way to speak to someone and to get an answer rather quickly. By implementing the AI bot, though, it changed the landscape. We were able to identify what areas did customers need the quickest answers on, what areas did we want to provide them with insight on proactively during that interaction? And even today, we've really changed the landscape in learning what the customer's needs were during that time.
Mm-hmm. So how have you used the artificial intelligence and the chatbot to drive efficiency for customer-facing teams?
Yeah, absolutely. So in what we've learned over the past year is we initially had implemented the bot just to simplify answering the questions. How can we avoid having any type of long wait times or impacts to someone that was trying to get their service done quickly? By identifying and looking at those workflows, we learned quite a bit about our customers. We learned that they wanted to get an efficient answer, but also wanted to have the ability to troubleshoot. So troubleshooting is not an easy thing through an AI bot. So if you've ever had the opportunity to try to troubleshoot technology, it can be rather challenging. And so it was really about taking the lessons learned, creating workflows, and creating that technology in a way that as we were learning and the bot was learning about the customer, we were able to efficiently change our workflow. So it went from just answering a question to creating the ability for them to maybe unlock an account, gather more information on their billing, do some quick troubleshooting steps before we elevated them to a direct individual. And then as of recently, it has become with integrating with other items. So we use Calendly, for instance, for scheduling. So it allows them to simplify the scheduling process when they need an outbound call, and even expanding into the sales arena by being able to elevate qualified leads to the proper channels so that they can quickly get serviced and start to utilize the product. So it's really changed and elevated since we've gone live.
Great. And are there any key success indicators or metrics that you can share that are related to the chatbot?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did launch in late 2019 with an effort of just offering easy answers. And today it's much more complex with workflows and other opportunities. What we've seen over the last 3 years has definitely changed our landscape. So in 2019, for example, we had gone live midway through the year, and we had an equivalency of 6 FTE saves. Doesn't seem like much the first couple of months. As time has gone on, current state for 2021, we're up to 19 FTEs that we're able to shift by having the bot service our customers. In addition, our containment rate, where we don't have to pass on those individuals to have additional services, we started at 58% containment rate in 2019, and today we're at 86%. So we definitely have learned, the bot has learned from the customer's habits and understanding of what their needs were, and we're continuing to drive efficiency through that model.
Okay, Sarah, thank you. So, Kailash, do you want to tell us about yourself and
yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kailash. I run the regional customer center and servicing platform for DBS Bank. DBS is the largest financial institution in Southeast Asia, running across 18 markets. We are headquartered and listed in Singapore. It's a tiny island in Southeast Asia. So we pitched in for the best technology use under financial services sector on the Stevie Awards, and we won a gold award for that. Let me just give a bit of background of what we did in this particular area. So we use chatbots predominantly on our digital channels, both on mobile banking as well as internet banking apps. And we use a bit of prediction engines as well as proactive monitoring, and actually guide the customers to a chatbot and use a combination of flow designers and guided conversations to help the customer fulfill their needs. So that's exactly what we did for our customer center. And we actually handle majority of the calls, chats, social media, emails, and a combination of offline messaging as well.
Okay. So, Kailash, how do you get customers to use your chatbot?
That's a good question, Tennessee. The key is customers actually do what we actually ask them to do. So in the past, we used to ask them to say, visit the branches. Customers diligently visit branches. We ask them to call the customer center. They diligently call the customer center. So now when we actually ask them to say, go digital, it doesn't actually happen naturally because it's not a physical task. So the key is for us to actually understand why the customer needs a servicing need, and actually predicting that they're going to actually have this need and nudging them to go to a digital. So it is a multifaceted approach. So you actually have to have a constant education to the customer. Second is when the customer calls the customer center, or calls it in a generic words, you should have an ability to predict. So that's where the AI and the ML models come into picture on our end. So we predict why the customer is going to call and what is the most likely need for the customer. We build digital capabilities on our chatbot. We predict and we guide the customers to say that if you're calling for these capabilities, I will send you a link, and you can actually click on that link and take you to a chatbot, and it's personalized for you and gets a request fulfilled. So that way we create an experience which is both proactive and preemptive. And now we actually have a customer who knows how to use chatbot, and he knows that there is a channel for digital servicing. And now we actually measure the customer by his lifetime value. So this customer, if he doesn't turn up to the customers in the next 7 days, we save a call. And we actually measure how many times this customer doesn't call us in the next 1-2 years. It's a lifetime value for us.
And how do you balance between chatbot and human-assisted servicing?
The key is always to actually have a human at the end of the tunnel or the end of the chatbot for this to help the customers when the bot cannot actually answer customer questions.
Yeah.
As long as you have that, what you call the last resort for the customer that's available, customer has a lot of trust on the digital solution, which in this case is the bot. So in our case, what we've done is we actually nudge the customers to go to the chatbot, try to actually get his needs fulfilled. If he's not able to fulfill, we actually look at his intents and we look at his thumbs down and thumbs ups on his responses. And we offer a live chat or what we call as an offline messaging as an alternate channel. All we need is get the customer's intent passed on to us, either on asynchronous mode or on a synchronous mode. And then once the request gets fulfilled, the customer gets a notification. This way, we can actually make sure that the customer can always come back to the digital channel.
Okay, and although you gave us already a hint, how do you justify the investment for the chatbot?
Most of the chatbot that runs on the servicing side goes on one principle: can you reduce my demand, or what I call calls or interactions? So we also go as that as a basis. So that's a number one priority. If I'm able to reduce the calls coming into the customer center, I win. So we're just like, every call costs me X amount of dollars, you save X amount of calls, it naturally goes down to your cost. That's number one. Number two is the biggest hurdle that actually faces what we call the legacy banks or financial institutions. How do you migrate customers from an analog world to a digital world? Because this is where the biggest buck for money is. You may build the world's best capabilities, but if you do not actually get your customers to use it, it's going to be difficult to monetize it. And that's where chatbots play a critical role in terms of monetizing it and actually increases usage. So that's the second point. Third is customer experience. When the entire customer base actually moved to digital in a very short span of time during COVID, we were there at that point of time for the customers. And we were able to fulfill their digital needs in a real-time basis from a customer perspective. And as a result, our customer satisfaction scores went up. And when we all know the long saying, right, which is that the more loyal the customers are, the more revenue they're going to come back, bring it back to the institution. So that way, we look at three pillars: cost from a customer center perspective, digital value capture or digital fulfillment from a customer perspective, as well as customer experience. So you keep customer at the center of everything you do, you win.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Kailash. So let's move to Anne from American Red Cross. Anne?
Hello. I'll introduce myself. So thank you. My name is Anne Herms. I am a product manager here at the American Red Cross on our innovation team. Our team focuses on using emerging technologies to deliver the Red Cross mission, which is to prevent and alleviate human suffering. The American Red Cross delivers this mission through a wide variety of initiatives, things like collecting and distributing life-saving blood products, sheltering those impacted by a natural disaster, and much, much more. So in relation to the Stevie Award, we use chatbots and conversational AI more broadly in service of our mission to help those who are in need and those who would like to give help to those in need get access to essential information instantly and on demand. So our award is for a combination of a public-facing as well as an internal chatbot covering use cases like registering to donate blood, directing those evacuated after a natural disaster to a shelter, and guiding employees and volunteers to self-service information to help them do their jobs better.
Great. So how have chatbots helped with mission delivery during the COVID-19 pandemic?
Sure. As many others have alluded to in their responses, all businesses had to change how they were delivering their services during the pandemic, and that's no different for us in delivering our mission. So we had a lot of impacts from COVID-19. Many blood drives were canceled, making it difficult for us to collect blood. Eligibility criteria for donating blood was changing day to day based on COVID, contact with individuals infected with COVID, vaccines, et cetera, as well as sheltering individuals. So we had to move from large congregate shelters, many beds in a room, to putting people in hotels, things like that for safety reasons. So because of that, we really needed to get rapidly changing information out to our clients and our volunteers, our donors, immediately and at scale. And that's something that using a chatbot really allows us to do. So rather than training a whole new call center staff, when the information is changing on a daily basis, we're just able to quickly make that update and get the new information out there within a matter of hours, so that those in need and our donors have that up-to-date information. The other benefit of this is that we were able to reach new demographics. So because of the pandemic, there have been many periods of a blood shortage here in the US, difficult for people to donate due to the pandemic, and we really needed new donors. Younger people might be more interested in chatting with a bot rather than calling into a call center. So using these chatbots has enabled us to reach a new demographic.
Cool. So do you envision that bots will replace live agents for the Red Cross at any point in the future?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So as you can imagine, being a nonprofit, our goal is to prevent and alleviate human suffering. It's really important that the folks we're working with know that there is someone here at the American Red Cross who cares, a real person helping them in their time of need. But with the increasing number and severity of natural disasters, it's becoming more and more difficult, but also more and more important to deliver that human touch. So we needed to find a way to scale to help everyone in need. So this technology really enables us to have our staff focus on giving that human touch and that human assistance where it matters most and to those who need it most. So we're able to answer those kind of low priority, high frequency questions with the bot and have our staff give that kind of warm hug, as we like to call it here at the Red Cross, to those who really need it and those who are in distress.
Interesting. Thank you, Anne. So let me remind first that the audience can send their questions through YouTube, and we have a question from Aaron in the YouTube chat. So the question is anyone having success keeping context not only of what's being discussed with the chatbot, but also with what the customer is doing in other channels? I think Kailash can answer that, or anyone, of course. We have Anne first because she already talked. I don't know if you want to contribute in that question.
Okay, let me take that question, Thanasis.
Okay,
right.
okay.
That's actually a very, very good question, because one of the what I call the bottlenecks, or probably the constraint of a the chatbot or the bot or the virtual assistant we call it, is that it's very good in natural language understanding and processing. But with the absence of data that's actually going to help it, the context is actually typically lost. And that's where typically the complaints come on a chatbot saying that chatbot doesn't understand. Because a chatbot is most of the times used by the customer more like a search engine or not like a conversation engine. That's how customers treat the chatbots. So the key is to make sure that we're able to get a context around the particular customer's question. And for that, you may not be in a position to actually ask the customer, but you'll have to actually to decipher from different sources. And the few sources which we actually in DBS do is actually monitor the customer's digital footprints, or what call their page visits in their websites or apps. And we also overlay that on top of their transactional behaviors, their credit card, debit card transactions, their account transactions, and all the comms we send back to the customers in terms of either push notes, emails, and SMS. And we use a combination of all these three to predict what the customer is looking out for. And your success is not measured just in containing the customers in chatbot, because our intention is not to build all the services in chatbot. You have digital capabilities that's available in other channels. You redirect the customers to actually to those particular digital channels by use of deep links, and you measure whether the fulfillment is successful or not, and if the customer comes back to the customer center for a same query in the next X number of days. So that's how you measure success of a chatbot, not exclusive to the chatbot channel, but is the customer being redirected to the appropriate channel which your organization is building up for.
Hey, great, thanks. So let me ask a couple of questions that we also have from the audience. So what has been the largest benefit to adding a chatbot to your organization's website for those who have added it on the website? Kayla, do you want to give us an answer?
Absolutely. I think some of the largest benefits that we've had is, and I know that Anne kind of talked a little bit about that warm hug, right? And understanding that we're not looking at our chatbot to replace member service representatives. That's not what it's there for, right? But it is there to help remove the low complexity, low emotion type of transactions from those member service reps so that they can handle the more complex, higher emotion events like a loss of a loved one or filing a claim after a natural disaster. And then things like changing your credit limit or changing the PIN for your card can be done on digital, right? And so it's really understanding, I think one of the benefits is understanding what type of event or interaction the member's having with USAA and getting it to the right place. Can a chatbot handle it? Should a member service rep handle it? Or maybe it's a search thing and they just need to get to the correct page, like Kailash mentioned about having deep links, right? The other piece is the cost savings benefit to it, right? When you are able to contain something digitally and not send it to the member service representatives, there's obviously going to be a cost benefit to that, right? But I think the biggest piece is just being where your members are when they need you, and then knowing what type of event or transaction interaction that they're having with us should belong within the contact center or can stay digital.
Thanks. I don't know if anyone wants to add something on that, because I know that, yeah, most of you have...
Yeah, I can add.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can add something to it. Yeah, it has many benefits, right? It's basically the main thing is the immediacy, the ability to deliver the information quickly. In our case, we did the bot for sellers and operations team. So now they don't need to send a few emails or make phone calls to get information. Now they have the information in their fingertips. And this allowed us to this allows the seller to close the deals quickly. So there is a huge productivity saving. There is an efficiency. It has saved us like millions of dollars using this bot implementation.
Thanks, Vasanti.
Yeah, and I'll add from a slightly different perspective, having our chatbot available on our website for blood donors has actually enabled us to get a lot of new donors. So early on in the pandemic, there was a lot of communication in the media about there being a blood shortage. And so we had a huge influx of people to our website. They didn't know what questions they had about donating blood. They didn't know where to search on the website or what even to search for. And the bot was a great channel for them to just kind of pop in and kind of be guided through what types of information they might need to know, like how long is it going to take? What are the different types of donations? And a good way to guide people through those frequently asked questions if they didn't already know what they were searching for.
Yeah, very great to hear that. Yeah. Another question that I have is, what are some ways that the virtual assistant can continue to grow its knowledge base and ensure that people are getting the correct responses when asked? Kayla.
I was like, which one of us is going to go first? So I talked a little bit about this earlier in one of my responses, but we continually monitor the NLU and really understand what members are asking because it's natural language, right? They ask in various ways and it may not always mean the same thing. And so we definitely take a look at the NLU. If there's new questions coming in, what are our highest questions that we're getting? Have members changed? We also monitor what's going on in the world, right? COVID-19 was a good example of we had to create new content because now that was being asked in stimulus checks and whatnot. And so we wanted to make sure that we are also addressing what's happening in the world and in the environment. But the biggest piece that we look at is we continually monitor our NLU and expand off of it.
Yeah, and for us, continually monitoring has actually allowed us to surface some questions that the organization as a whole didn't know about. So through monitoring the NLU, for example, with blood donations and criteria, perhaps we didn't have a codified policy around something related to COVID-19. We noticed a lot of people are asking about it. Notify our medical office, and it sets a lot of wheels in motion. So it's a really great way to just get, what your customers, clients, donors, whoever they may be, are thinking about, and feed that into all areas of the business.
I think same is true for us also. We continuously monitor and we look at the subjects that are of interest to the end users, and we try to bring in those information, allowing the subject matter expert to create more content. Or the other way we do look at it is to look at the technology, right? There are plenty of documents. There are a lot of unstructured documents that are out there by business within our organization. So we try to bring those content as is into a technology which can interpret and which can extract the information to the end user from the correct document and other things. So that's another way in which we are expanding the scope and knowledge of the virtual assistant.
Thanks.
So if we add our last two more sentences on top of the same subject, right? So one of the things we actually found a different way to do it is, can customer tell that the bot is actually helping us or not? So there are two ways to look at it. One is, if the customer types in a question we are not able to answer, definitely the NLU will tell us that we are not able to answer this question. So that's one way to figure out what questions are coming in. Second is, we may think that we are actually answering the question correctly because the bot says, I'm giving you this with a confidence score of more than 90%, and the customer gives a thumbs down. So that thumbs down indicates that either the customer is dissatisfied in the answer from a straightforward perspective, or the context is actually probably not appropriate for the customer. He may ask for a product balance from one product we may have given for another product. So we use these two indicators to see how do we improve the content of the chatbot. So it's a continuous process, and it's not going to be done in a day and dust and say we are done for this year. No, it will be a continuous process. COVID-19 is one good example. We had to create all new content overnight.
Sure. Yeah, so we have also a question from Eric in the chat. What is the relationship between the live agents and their embracing of the bot? Are there ever concerns or pushback about the AI experience? If yes, what is the response to agents? Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I can take that one. In any environment where you're introducing a potential technology that could, I hate to say it, but eliminate roles, I think that's when it changes the mindset of our agents. And so what we have found is, in working back with them, we're including them in solutioning. Can you give us some feedback on what customers might be telling you with regards to the bot? Where do you think that we can implement some new workflows or new information that might be able to aid in capturing that will help you in solving more issues? And so in doing that, what we have found is we've actually opened a new door with those groups, and they're coming to us now and understanding that this is a technology used to be able to help them service the customer better. So it's about driving the mindset of how do we use that channel as an influencer to impact the way you service your customer. And it certainly has changed the mindset. We've had a lot of opportunities where, because we're implementing workflows that can capture information, it's aiding and reducing the amount of work that they're doing and allowing them to really service customers at a new level.
If I may add on to top of the same question, right? So there's two ways to look into it. One is, like what Sarah said, there's always a fear of losing jobs, right?
Yeah.
To get people to train the bot. Where we actually pivoted a bit differently is that, how long are you going to take calls for your life, right? Are you going to actually be a call center agent for your life? The answer is no, nobody wants to be a call center agent for life. So you train the bot, then we created new roles, like we created what we call annotation specialist. We create flow designers. We create content creators for this bot. So what we said is, yes, jobs will be lost who are people who are actually taking calls, but we create new jobs. People will not be out of jobs from a bank perspective. You will actually be changing roles, you'll be changing and you'll be doing new things. You'll not be doing exactly the same things. So that's how we position for our customers and DBS to say that. And we created not just this, we created 10 new roles after we actually implemented the bots to say that you train the bots, you do annotation, you do content creation, you do a lot of analytics on top of it. So that's way to actually position for the agents.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah. And we have another question that I think it is somehow related. How do you manage opening hours for your chatbot? Do you need teams in multiple time zones to offer 24/7 coverage?
But that's exactly why the bot is for, to actually offer 24/7, where humans can't be there for 24/7.
But do you need
right?
for that teams in multiple time zones?
I believe most of us who's in this call actually run customer centers is going to be 24/7 and probably in multiple time zones in multiple countries, right? One of the things actually chatbot helps is actually to be able to actually answer what you call the low volume, low complexity, low emotional questions like what Kayla mentioned, right? And when you come on what you call an off-peak hours in a customer center terms, which is the odd hours where the volumes are low and the people are lesser, you create an alternative path where you can leave as a message. It creates an offline communication and actually leaves the same seamless experience from a customer perspective. And that's how we actually manage the experience to keep it digital. If you hand off to a human during odd hours, then your experience is still moving from digital to analog.
Thanks.
I think for USAA, because not all of our contact centers are 24/7, and I agree with Kailash that the chatbot is there to hopefully contain them digitally so they don't need to call. But when they do, we do offer our hours of operation or the times that the contact centers open or closed within the chatbot so that they know when they can get a hold of us, either by chat or by phone. But we also try to contain them. So if we can answer their question there, we do. If we can't, then at least they know when they can contact us.
Yeah, and one last comment on this one. What's interesting about this question is we're focusing on multiple time zones and 24/7. And we had an opportunity where we could actually use the bot to open up the 24/7 option. So it went in reverse. So similar to what Kayla just mentioned, not all centers are open 24/7, but we had an opportunity to actually expand the ability for customers to schedule calls 24/7 within the time slots that they wanted by having the bot available at all times. So it's really shifted and changed the way we're servicing customers without having to have the 24/7 coverage all the time.
Thanks. So I have another question on the KPIs that are usually used in the industry to measure success. What are the different KPIs? Maybe you can share what each one of you uses or what you suggest.
I can start, right? So we track how many questions are being asked by the end users, and how many users are repeated users, or how many are unique users that we have. We also measure what is the what confidence level or how accurately we are providing the response. We measure their feedback, right? Whether it's a thumbs up or thumbs down, why are they providing us thumbs down and what is the reason behind it? So we look at all kind of analytics on this to see the type of questions that is being asked and the usage from, we have a huge implementation because we cover multiple areas within the sales organization. We also look at it as to which subject is being more often asked compared to the others and other things. So those are the different type of analytics that we have on our side.
Yeah, and for us, for anything transactional, we're also looking at conversion rates. So for example, you can schedule an appointment to donate blood. What's the conversion rate within the bot for that compared to just scheduling on the website or via another channel is another important metric.
Great.
So in terms of DBS, we look at three areas. One is we look at churn, right? How many customers went to the bot and the bot couldn't serve the customer and actually land up in the customer center the next 7 days. And to us, that's actually a churn rate, which we actually said we should actually reduce it. That's number one we actually measure. The second one we measure is how many customers started the conversation with us and actually ended in a fulfillment. We don't really measure how many customers ask the same questions or how many customers went to the bot because we are doing the servicing needs. So the lesser the query comes, the better the bank is. So we don't measure on a number of traffic coming into picture, but we measure if you have kickstarted a conversation in terms of a particular request, are you fulfilling it? If you're not fulfilling it and we actually a drop off, then we actually measure that to see that what should be the appropriate threshold for drop off. That's number two. Number three is what we call the accuracy of the bot. Many people use different things. We use a concept called F1 score. which actually tells us how good the NLU and the NLP works for us on the bot. So these are three things we look both from a qualitative and a quantitative perspective.
And on the USA side, we measure very similar. We start with how many launches we've had on our mobile app or .com, and then how many of those launches engaged and how many of those contained. We measure our containment a little bit different than DBS Bank does. We do, they didn't contact us via chat or call within 30 minutes. And so it's maybe a little aggressive, but that's how we measure our containment. And then we also measure NLU success rate. How is our NLU performing? Is it getting the member, X% of the time to the right intent, or are we not? And we're giving them incomprehensions or related answers.
Yeah.
And I can add to, from our perspective, we are looking at FTE equivalency because we want to understand how the bot is helping the environment. In addition, we also look at two metrics, which is the interaction score with the bot, because we do utilize a separate survey platform embedded within the bot so that we can understand from a five-star scoring methodology how it's performing. And then lastly, we do an effort score so that we can measure their interaction is one thing with the bot, but how hard or easy did we make it for them to interact with the bot, which allows us to look at it from a different angle.
Yeah. So everything. Yeah.
Oh, I'll just add one more thing that no one else mentioned, which is looking at sentiment. So it doesn't make sense for all of our use cases because, say, someone has been affected by disaster, their sentiment is going to be negative regardless of if the bot is doing well. But in some circumstances, it makes sense to look at the content of what the user is saying, use sentiment analysis to get a score, and determine if they had a generally positive or negative experience just based on the content of their messages.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that every KPI that I heard sounds very relevant almost to everyone. So yeah, that's very interesting to hear. So another question is if and how you have leveraged experts in the field of artificial intelligence and chatbots.
Again, I can start on this one.
Yeah.
Being a technology company, IBM already has a lot of experts, but we also look at what is out there in the market as well. So we have exclusive, we can just go to the researchers or to the product team to identify what are the newest things that they are doing with the NLP and which can be integrated within the bot and other things. So we do have the advantage from IBM perspective.
So from TBS perspective, we actually go predominantly open source. So the models that's actually available for NLP and the NLU models available on the open source community is quite rich. And we actually took a look at that, and then we decided that it's easy for us to build a bot on our own rather than actually going and actually getting a vendor to do it for us. So initially we went with the vendor, and then over a period of time, we figured out that the bot requires a lot of data and integration, and we need to build something for ourselves. And that's where we went a lot on open source, and actually we built our own in-house bot. And we had a lot of help from the university interns and graduates who came and joined at the bank. And COVID actually also helped us to get the good talents at the right time.
Sure, yeah.
At USAA, we partner with Nuance, and so they are our partner and vendor, and we partner with them on the NLU. We partner with them on content across the board. We have the backend system at USAA, but we use Nuance partnership.
Nice. Okay, if you don't have something to add. So yeah, I want to remind people that they can ask their questions through YouTube. I also have one question that, we already talked about this a little bit, is if you have any advice to any kind of business or any size of business on how they can start using chatbots, where they can start, where should they start in order to start getting at least familiar with that, and of course having any benefits from the chatbots that they can, but where should they start? like a mid-sized company or a small company or a small business?
Let me go first then, right? So the first and foremost thing is if you're going to be a mid-sized company, start as a website as a first basis one, right? And you create a contents on your website and your bot, which I believe anyone can build with a basic open source model that's available out in the market. The key is your bot should be able to give you a top 5 commonly searched questions, top 5 commonly answered questions. Or what are the latest ones people are looking out for, and also have an avenue for customers to drop in a message for you in case they can't find something in it. So as long as you can build with this, then you will actually get to know what does your customer want, and then you can start upgrading your bot for the next level of changes. I would say that's the bare minimum you need to start with.
Yeah. Any other advice?
Yeah, I think you need to understand what is the user wanting from this bot and try to make it simple just by adding only few content to it. Make sure that it is working well. User experience is critical. When the people are typing in a one word or two word, or if they have to choose some multiple answers, try to give them buttons instead of allowing them to type in everything. So user experience and the business problem that you are trying to solve with the chat are two key things to be taken into consideration as they are trying to define a bot.
And I think the last thing that I would add is we should understand what the business problem is that we're looking to solve. I think oftentimes we run to a solution thinking what's best for the customer, but in reality, we have to take a step back and really understand who is it that we're looking to service and what is the pain point internally that we're looking to solve for, so that we combine those two efforts and start small but grow it large.
Yeah.
Yeah, to echo what everyone else said, I think there is no harm in starting with a narrow scope and making sure that you really nail that down and get that correct so that the user experience is great. And, you don't want to start with trying to answer every single question that your customer might have. That likely won't be successful. So make sure that you have the scope really clearly defined before you kick off.
Yeah, that's a great advice. So, okay, I don't see any questions. I also want to remind people, since we are getting to the end of our webinar, that the 2022 Stevie Awards for Sales and Customer Service is accepting nominations. The early bird deadline is on October 13, and you can visit the stevieawards.com to request your entry kit. So I want to thank you all. Thanks Kayla, Vasanti, Sarah, Kailash, Anne, for being a part of this webinar. I want to thank the Stevie Awards for making this possible today. And yeah, that's it from me. Have a nice rest of the day for those of you in the US, and yeah, for the rest of us, have a good evening.